Low, get it? Yeah, obviously, yeah. Sorry. Now, circumcised men can grow a new foreskin painlessly and enjoy greater sensitivity and sexual pleasure, according to Californian psychologist Dr. Jim Bigelow. Dr. Bigelow, 95, has published a book entitled The Joy of Uncircumcising, apostrophe.
The joy of getting it back.
Yeah, restore your birthright and maximise sexual pleasure. Jim Bigelow was circumcised at birth but never recovered from, quote, the feeling of loss and violation of having his foreskin chopped off. 4 years ago, Dr. Jim Bigelow began to redevelop his foreskin by stretching and taping the skin on his penile shaft over the glands or head of the glans penis. Now, to aid the process of tissue expansion, Mr. I don't know why he keeps changing back from Doctor. I'm going to stick with the Doctor, bugger it. I don't care whether he's Mr. He must be obviously a surgeon, you know,
so
a registrar. Mr. again. Mr. Bigelow attached a funnel-shaped stainless steel device to his glans penis to provide extra pull. However, a small weighted device like a lead fishing lure also could be attached to the tape to increase the tension. Quote, the idea is to provide enough tension to fool your glans penis into believing it is growing to incredible lengths so that it'll then grow the skin to cover it, Mr. Bigelow told the Independent newspaper. It interfered with spontaneous sex since you have to pace the sexual relationship with the day you're going to change the tape. At first, my wife thought what I wanted to do is a little strange. Once I explained... No comment required. Thanks very much, Dr. Jim Bigelow. Yeah. Once I explained how I felt and that I needed her support and cooperation, she stood by me.
Yes, you would.
After taping and stretching the skin for about 50 years, Mr. Jim Bigelow
had to get special trousers.
Boasts a new foreskin that covers 3/4 of a mile of penis head, which he claims has become more sensitive and sexually responsive. Having a foreskin has also restored a completeness and psychological sense of wholeness.
Oh, he would feel whole now, yeah. Bigelow, he feels enormously whole.
Well, there you go, Benny Elias. Yeah. That's the article.
Well, Stella reckons if you just if you put fish hooks through the foreskin
and tie it to the back of a ute. With a 120-pound blanket.
No, you hang it from the ceiling.
Right.
And at night you sleep suspended by your
wedding tackle.
Yeah. And in that way, after a while, if say in the beginning of the year when you first started, sure you've got to have someone who's sympathetic with whom you're sharing your life. If in fact you're not dateless.
Yeah.
Now,
if you're dateless,
if you're dateless, you're laughing.
Yeah.
No worries, you can get up to whatever you like in the privacy of your own fishhook bedroom. Now, so you fishhook up, right? And let's say you lie or you're suspended 2 metres above the bed after 6 or 8 months. Eventually, lying there each night, eventually you start to feel the sheets on your back. And that's when you know that you've probably gone far enough. Yeah. When you've got, the foreskin, obviously about 1.5 metres extended beyond the tip of the glans penis.
Well, I'd like to suggest that we had a pulley system on the roof and you got out a big rod, with a reel on it. Yeah. You cast over the pulley system into the foreskin, reeled it back until you felt a good amount of tension. Yeah. And then obviously you'd be able to measure off your reelometer how far you were pulling it in.
Well, couldn't you just look down?
Oh, no,
unscientific. Your reelometer?
Scientific.
Unless you didn't want to look at it.
No,
you
that's
just put a cardboard box over your stomach to block out what's happening there. So you could be surprised next morning.
That's right. And you'd be able to kind of get the tension up and Bob's your uncle.
Or if you were living with someone cruel,
well, I was just thinking...
Give them the reelometer.
Indeed, to reel it in. Reel me in, love.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously.
Enough! But... Rugby league calendars, Roy. Picture this. Imagine a bit of a snap of, say, Dale Shearer in the reelometer position.
Oh, yeah.
With your suggestion, a couple of metres off the bed.
Yeah.
Just hanging by the flute.
Yeah.
With the foreskin stretched. Yeah. Wouldn't that look tremendous?
Of course it would. Of course it would. A daguerreotype of that taken by Ansel Adams.
In your brown and white.
Yeah. Richard Harris, Man Called Horse, got that sort of feel to it, doesn't it? You know, A Man Called Horse.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
I've never seen it, but I saw the photograph, the poster that had Richard Harris being hung up, by fishhooks, essentially. But it's a similar idea, except that the Indians who were torturing poor old Dick
had no idea he just wanted the sloop extended.
No, I had no idea they could have extended his foreskin at the same time as giving him a bit of curry.
We'll be back with more life and more brilliant solutions in a moment.
I know Tommy, and put those two together, I thought there was absolute chemistry there. I couldn't see anything going wrong with the marriage. I mean, to my mind, they were trying to invent things to outrage each other, and each time it got bigger and it got better. You know, when he'd get some gelignite and blow up half the house, she used to love that. You know, and she'd put strychnine in his drink and he'd drink it, and the doctors would have to come and pump his stomach and laugh. I mean, tremendous relationship. Just a couple of practical gangsters.
Well, the quietest night of their whole marriage was that night we spent with them in the motel when the cops came.
No, very quiet, because we were there.
Yeah. They behaved themselves, didn't they? But when they were by themselves, lunatics and laugh, you know, just tremendously funny people.
Yeah.
And, you know...
A great sense of humour. I mean, I remember once he saying to me that the thing he wanted to do... I said, what do you want to do with yourself, Tommy? He said, I want to be remembered. And I said, well, what do you got in mind? He said, I'd love to be able to blow up the pyramids. What a great guy.
And when it came to extending his foreskin, I mean, he had all the gear. He had all the gear.
That's right. He wanted to tie his foreskin to Challenger. Yeah. What a guy.
As a safety rope. So I came back to Earth. And it's tremendous effort. And a pity now that they can't do these things together.
It is, isn't it?
I don't know what the future of the crew is. But Elphick's letter, his long introduction, you know, he writes, who has ever been to Homebush for pleasure? The only time that anyone is... This Homebush, I should point out to people who aren't familiar with it, is the main locale of the Sydney Olympic Games, you know, venues. It's a collection of venues, including the swimming and the athletics and so on.
The village, the Olympic village
is all out there.
Are we going to call it a village?
I hope so. Environ.
Biosphere.
The only time that anyone has been to Homebush, according to David Elphick, is stopped there when their car has broken down. Since the tourist boom began here, we have not heard about one of the 15 million tourists come to Australia. Not one of them has visited Homebush. Why would they? The year 2000 is the end of the most amazing 100 years in the history of personkind. Do we seriously expect the entire world to focus its attention, satellites, etc., on Homebush on this momentous occasion? What kind of hopeless joke is this Homebush bid? I say bring back the abattoirs to Homebush, convert the Olympic complex into a show abattoir, and as men with a taste of flesh, you should see the value in this idea. I certainly do. If you, I say this, if they put up an abattoir, rebuilt the abattoir
there used to be
with perspex walls and a parking area where you could sit and watch cattle slaughtered from the comfort of your own car, I say...
While eating a hamburger.
While eating a hamburger from a local McDonald's. I say, sponsoring now the AFL football, I say you would not get a car in there in daylight hours. You would not get a car. There would only...
It'd be even better at night if it was lit up.
That's what I mean. The only time you get a car in there would be roughly... This is transient traffic, like you and me. It would be chock-a-block. You couldn't build enough cars parking spaces there. I mean, look at what Kim Basinger had on the books for Brazeltown, now called Bassingerville, with the remember
with
the
above ground sewage
in the C3 pipes.
Yes, perspex pipes. You can watch your friends.
That's right. You can watch the carpet go from back door to drinkable water, all before your very eyes.
Yeah.
Imagine a perspex drop box. Imagine it being taken on the killing floor.
Yeah.
Imagine seeing it being packed off to go up to France, Italy, overseas, Japan, wherever you want to.
Yeah.
That would bring people. But I say this more. The Olympic Games is only for a few weeks in the year 2000.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. The perspex abattoir...
is there forever.
But
it's true. It is true. It is there forever. And, obviously you'd get some of your slaughter people to dress up in funny-coloured gear. And you'd
do the yo-yo work with the gizzards. Obviously do some of the things that have become famous over the years in the abattoir trade.
Well, I don't think we should devalue too much the spirit of the cattle. They've got to be respected.
Yeah,
respected.
I'm sorry, Roy.
I'm sorry, Roy.
No, take it back. I did go too far.
Yeah.
Let me apologise.
I think a good clean kill can be just as funny.
As somebody doing it funny with a clown suit?
Yeah.
Yes, I take your point.
You sure
to see them wriggle after they've gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So to have someone, different archetypes, like you'd have your
Man in Black.
Philip Adams, how Philip Adams would kill.
Yeah.
Arco.
Would this be on a special attention today? We've got celebrity killer, Philip Adams.
Oh, no, just look, people in the manner of.
Yeah, no.
To kill in the manner of Arco.
At 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
At 3.
Like today, we'll have...
Chris McDermott.
3 Chris McDermotts, 4 Arcos.
And St Andrew Alexander.
Yeah. Slaughtering today. Well, I think...
People would get there at the time, wouldn't they?
Yes.
It'd be like feeding the penguins at the zoo. That's funny. And cruel. But, I think that this could work. I think that David Elphick is absolutely right, that people would come. And imagine how easy it would be to promote. See the only perspex abattoir in the world. I mean, the phone wouldn't stop ringing.
But if you had, you mentioned, buying your hamburger at McDonald's. If the abattoir had its own hamburger outlet...
Oh, this would be part of the thing.
And freshness, obviously, could be its, key selling point.
Where they were so... If you wanted them rare, they wouldn't have to be heated.
They'd still only be... They'd be as warm... Body warm, 98.6. If, say, for example, your cattle is 98.6 normally.
That's a good question.
And if it, say, did cool off just a little bit, say it was 98.1 by the time it got onto the bun, that'd still be perfectly acceptable if you wanted it sushi style. But I see with problems with that. Absolutely fresh. From go to woa. Watch it all the way through and you could follow your order.
I want to eat that bit.
I want that big stupid bucket that's going in there, the Hereford. Yeah, the Hereford. What? Yeah. Bang. Hold the sauce.
It would be a fantastic idea. And that's what's wrong with these highfalutin ideas about taking terrific ideas that were, like an abattoir, and putting an Olympic Games bid slap bang on top of the old, the dregs. Do you know what I mean? When obviously, we need to recondition some of these things and see the value in them. Surely that's what heritage is all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure. And it's not as if slaughtering is, Australia's trial sport. And it should be.
Roy, obviously during the week we were lucky enough to get out to the airport in Sydney on at least about 4 or 5 occasions to farewell our team that is going over to Monaco to be part of this final week of lobbying on behalf of the Sydney 2000 Games bid. Obviously Johnny Coates went, Roddy McGeoch went, Kevin Gosper went, Brucey Baird went and Philly Coles went, and 72 other people are representing Australia over there. Some of these are... what would you call it, obvious choices. Charlie Perkins, for instance, Kieran Perkins, the swimmer. Dame Joan Sutherland's going. She's going with a female companion, which is good. Goff and Margaret Whitlam are going. Nick and Catherine Greiner over there.
Are they really?
Peter Montgomery, member of the IC Athletes Commission, ... Johnny Valder's over there. Jeff Henke, AOC Vice President. Bob Carr, Sally Ann Atkinson. It's good to see Sally Ann going over and representing Sydney.
Well, I suppose she does have... personal skills, doesn't she? She can work a room.
She can work a room very well.
Yeah.
Very well. Johnny Kane's over there. Jelly Knight Jack Murray's over there, just in case somebody doesn't vote for Sydney. Now, 17 administration staff and secretary staff. Plus, the most interesting part of this component is the 5 secret people whose identities reveal some of the big tactics. Now, I've actually let the cat slightly out of the bag here with regard to these. Obviously, Madam Lash is going over with a very, very specific purpose in mind, because some IOC delegates... could I put this comfortably by saying, have problems with jadal libidos, which Madam Lash can do wonders with. And I think that, there's a part of this bid which has to be seen in the context of Thursday night and Friday voting patterns. This is Monaco time, not obviously, if there's a good night Thursday night, on the job wise, then I think that there's a very big chance that Sydney will get more than if there's a dud night Thursday night. Because the night before is very, very important.
Well, I think the Sydney condoms look great, don't they? Slip it on Sydney. I think they look tremendous. With the 5, my understanding was Jimmy Thunder was going. Australia's World Heavyweight Champion, WBO World Heavyweight Champion.
I believe that there is a discipline component in it. And I've always said that, obviously this bid's costing us roughly 30 million. Okay, you spend 15 million, saying to people... There's 500,000 each, or let's face it, we only need 96 votes, we only need about 40 to vote for us, and we're in, because obviously there's some from Australia, there's some from America who vote for us, and so on. And so what we need to do is get them. So we divide the 15 million, 500,000 each, have it, divide it up, say, Saturday morning.
In Swiss currency.
Swiss
francs.
Numbered bank accounts. It's yours for a Sydney vote. The other 15 million we spend on Jimmy Thunders, Peter Tunks and people like that, Madam Lash, to discipline the vote.
I don't know if you can do it that... I mean... I'd like to see Cess and Dean Waters there, for example, just working the crowd. Cess can work the crowd beautifully. And having Dean there as well, who's, sure, can seem slightly sullen, but he does exude a lot of authority.
Animal magnetism.
Yes, and to have the Waters. And maybe, as Joe Bugner, Joe's got tremendous experience. International experience, he's well known. There's nowhere in the world he can walk without people knowing who he is. Imagine Joe coming in and saying Manchester's hopeless, which Joe would. He would. I mean, he turned his back on England the same way he turned his back on Hungary.
well-
I mean, you can't blame him for turning his back on Hungary, sure, given the circumstances at the time. But with England, I mean, it's gone. It's finished. The love affair that Muzna had with Manchester, Birmingham, etc., is gone. It's gone.
My worry with Joe, though, is who is he representing? You know, is he representing the Gold Coast? Is he representing Budapest?
Look,
Is
so
he-
who was he representing when he turned out and tried to
As
become a
Aussie
shot
Joe.
putter for Australia recently?
Yeah, discus throw.
Discus throw.
Yeah, Australia, yes, you're right.
Australia.
People knew that. People...
Aussie Joe, when he was in that ring,
Yeah, oh,
the waddle, do I need to go on the waddle?
on the dressing gown? Yeah, no, true. I'd forgotten that. And let's hope he's packed the wattle dressing gown, because I'd love to see him just there,
Yeah.
say, with a pair of briefs on
Yes.
and the dressing gown,
Yes.
working a room.
Well, with Bruce Baird or Nick Greiner or
Roddy
Gough
McGeoch.
Whitlam, introducing them, like, one, Mr. Presidente, Il Presidente.
Yes, mein Führer.
Jimmy Thunder,
Yeah.
world heavyweight boxing champion from Australia, the
And-
WBO champion. One would know WBC from WBO. This is Cess Waters. Cess trains boxers, including 3 sons of his, one of whom is here.
Troy.
One, this is Dean. Or Troy.
Doesn't matter, Dean or
Dean
Luke.
and Troy Waters, they're
Yeah.
both here as well. Dean, this is Juan Antonio.
And Joe would know one, I bet,
Yeah.
from
It'll
previous
be-
dues.
It'll be, oh, Joe!
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Juan, how are you,
Yeah,
mate?
yeah.
Steady, I'm Australian now.
Yeah.
Not too...
Yeah.
Leave the hands in the pockets if you don't mind, son.
Yeah.
You know. And who else have you got on your list there? You've got Cess, Dean, Joe, Jimmy, and who's the fifth?
Well, I thought Jeff Harding.
Jeff Hitman Harding.
Why not?
Yeah,
He's a world champion.
true.
And it's not as if he has far to go. I mean, he'd be in Belfast at the moment, you know.
No, he's saving the airfare. Do we need 72 people there? Do we need, for instance, on this list here, I mean, I love seeing people go overseas, and I love to see people, obviously doing freebies. Do we need to send Dame Joan Sutherland?
No, because no one would know her.
Do we need to send...
No one would know her there. They just think, who's this very large, box-headed woman?
Do we need to send...
Well, I mean, they wouldn't know.
Yeah, speaking of
Until
box
she-
heads...
Well, if she blew a note there,
Yeah.
woo, then.
Yeah.
But she wouldn't do
No.
it. She's retired.
She hasn't got a good voice anymore either, I'm reliably informed.
Well, she can't hit a note anymore. I mean, she can't pitch.
No.
The pitch is gone.
And what would she sing? Would she sing up there, Kazali? A song that,
Oh, she had to
won?
think something new.
Yeah.
Time of Kangaroo Down Sport. 6 White Boomers, something that's been a hit.
2 Little Boys.
Well, what are some... Yeah, 2 Little Boys, that's Australian.
Santa never made it into Darwin.
I don't think that got much airplay in Europe. How's that did, though?
How's
Or
that?
Friday on My Mind?
Yes.
Friday on My Mind.
Yeah,
That's
that'd
the
be
one I'd go.
tremendous.
It might seem a little weird coming out of, a person who can't pitch anymore, but...
Now, speaking of box heads, Gough and Margaret Whitlam.
Well...
Do you know why are they there? I mean, Gough's been working in Africa for us, I understand.
Yeah.
How about John Valder?
Who?
Well, John
Former
Valder...
president of the Liberal Party.
Former president of the Liberal Party, chairman of corporate support. Well, now, what is this? What is this? I mean, does A.V. Jennings need John Valder to represent them in,
It's
Monaco?
just- he's just going to clog up the works. I mean, surely he's just what would you call background action? Yeah?
Well, Sally Ann Atkinson.
Extra. He's there as an extra. I mean, do we need extras?
Why do we need the night tripper, Johnny Hewson?
You want Juan and the rest of them to look at the sea of Australia, and everyone is identifiable.
Yeah.
You know them all.
Yeah, Joe,
Joe, Cess.
Dean. Yeah, that's right.
Dean, Troy.
Yeah, that's right. You're all here. Thanks for coming. Thanks for making the effort. Now I can see you're serious.
Yeah.
But who is
Dave
those?
Jones, sing that number again. What was it?
Friday on my mind.
Friday on my
Monday
mind.
I feel sad. Tuesday I feel bad.
Yeah.
That one, Joan. Yeah. Whereas what we've got now is we've got a lot of people like Bob Carr.
No names.
Yeah.
Sure, there are sort of names here. I mean, people might know Bob Carr. Well, no one in Perth would know Bob Carr.
Well, no one in Adelaide knows Sally Ann Atkinson.
No.
I defy Sally Ann Atkinson to be stopped walking down Rundle Mall.
Well, she wouldn't be. Except, I'll get out of the way. Or...
Yeah, excuse me, love.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Who are you looking
What
at?
are you looking at?
That's right. Yeah, from feisty Adelaideans who want the Giviters to win. I mean, what I find about it is that it's cringe-making having all these people there.
Yeah, yeah.
2 or 3, I can understand.
Why isn't Mel Gibson? Now you're talking.
Yeah, now you're talking.
Mel Gibson, Judy Davis.
What is Mel's position on the bid?
Yes, nobody's asked him.
No.
Judy Davis.
Abigail.
Sam Neill.
Abigail.
Abigail.
Or Elle McPherson.
Elle
Yeah.
McPherson.
Where's she when we need her? Probably still supporting the Cronulla Sharks.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I mean, people have got the
well, that
priorities
is it,
wrong.
isn't it? That is it. I mean, they've really shown their colours, haven't they? No support coming from the super bloody model Elle. None coming from Mel.
Super Mel.
Super bloody hands in the bloody footpath in Hollywood now with the
Mel?
knees. Mel.
No face. Man without a face.
Yes,
Mel.
yeah, Mel. None from him. Sam bloody Neil. What about the loony couple? You know,
I'm stuck on the home show, people. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, not Maggie Richard. They wouldn't know I'm overseas. Loony though they might be. I mean, she's got the red... The
Blondie and... Nicole and Tom! God almighty, I've forgotten all about them.
I mean, sure, I mean...
Has somebody bothered to ring them?
Yes!
And say, can you be there next weekend?
Because Wayne would be impressed by that. He might have seen one of those stupid bloody films that...
Far and Away. Days of Thunder.
What is it, Days of Thunder? Is that the one...
With cars.
What's the one where he's in a plane and... What was the first... Top Gun.
Top Gun. Juan would have seen Top Gun.
Juan would have loved it. He's related to Top Gun.
I know, from the
Especially
Spanish
when the bombs went off.
That's right, the
Blowing up
Spanish
the
days.
innocent people.
That's right.
Not that that happened in the film, but let's imagine it did, because I haven't seen it. Tremendous film, though, I'm sure it is. But, you know, Tom and Nicole, I mean, they're a fairy tale
God,
couple.
we've got it all wrong, haven't we? There
are so many cars that could have been bloody well played.
I know,
Not Brooke Shields. You know, there are all these Australians. Who's the person who's always taken a gear off?
Could be anybody.
On film. The Australian, Greta Scacchi.
Oh, yes, she would have been a very... Juan would know her work.
Of course he would.
And would have admired it in and out of the screen for years.
Of course.
That is a wonderful
I mean, he
idea.
mightn't have known her dressed.
No, well, he wouldn't.
But surely she would have put in...
She could have borrowed Arco's harem pants.
Yes.
That would have been enough to get her through customs. Well, look, when you look at this list, I mean, you know, who's to say? I can understand Roddy and Bruce going, but from then on, let's scrub it all out.
It's bloody no-nos, cluttering up the works extras.
Just dragging it down, and you could easily put in Nicole.
They look weird. They look... I mean, put them all together, you know, Gough and Dame Joan. They look like something out of a bloody sideshow.
The Addams family.
You don't know...
I'm the
bloody Addams family representing Australia.
Now you got me worried. Now, up until 2 minutes ago, I was convinced we had the bid. Now I think we've got to have a break and...
No, because Wayne will be thinking, look at these people. Just copper blood. I mean, he'd be behind a one-way mirror.
Just
a one-way glass. I mean, cacking his pants. I mean, they'd have to hose him off before he went into the... and put on the rim, put on the smile. Thinking, where's Greta?
Yeah.
Where's Mel? Where's Judy?
Elle.
Where's Elle? And where's the loony one that lives with Top Gun?
Yeah. Nicole.
Well,
if they were there, that's 5, plus the other 2, Bertie and Roddy. You know, that's 7. That's all we need. Yet we're sending over...
When I say loony, I mean anyone who... She's...
Oh, you don't have to explain yourself, Rory. I know exactly what you mean.
E-meter.
Yeah, the lot.
Yeah.
The lot. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we come back to this problem, you know, you've got so many people here, like Greg Daniel, tremendous bloke.
What about the shark?
Well, he's the chairman of the Communication Commission, but, you know, do we need him there? Surely, if anything...
No, it should have been Greg Norman.
I know. Brett Diogo. He's got the big O in his surname.
Boss!
You know, what disappoints...
The man with the ring in his name!
That's right. What disappoints me is that surely a communications boss... commissioner or whatever, could easily be in touch with fax and phone. Yeah. Doesn't have to go and... I mean, surely that is the world of modern communications. You don't have to go. So you stay back here and send somebody who looks good.
Yes.
Or can do things, you know...
Movers and shakers.
Good on you.
People who don't know.
That's right. Who can wriggle the hips.
Gravitas.
That's right, he can wriggle the hips.
Who can arrest the eyes.
Over a plate of jets.
Yes.
With the oysters there. Even if they are nose oysters, they know how to deal with them. They can pick them up, bend the wrist, put it past the mouth, and it looks very...
With a grin on the face.
That's right, very
still nod and make one think he's interesting. As he ran on and on and on
about the old days and
how
was shot.
Fun it was killing people for political
gain. I think we've lost it.
And Fraze.
Oh, Fraze.
Why isn't he there?
Why isn't Fraze?
I mean, how must these people feel? Waiting there, sitting around the phone. There'd be Fraze still probably thinking, oh, well,
India.
There's still a plane that could get there in time. It's not going. What about Cassie?
Yeah, well, how about, you know, this is a name.
Simo!
It's just come to me. King Wally Lewis.
Oh, it's so obvious, isn't it? It's so obvious.
The bloke hasn't got a job 1 week, and we ignore him at this moment of absolute crisis in this nation.
Well, now, let's say, Wally, please be listening, King. Get on a plane.
Go to Monaco.
Now and win the games.
Introduce yourself to Roddy McGeoch, Bruce Baird. I'm sure they wouldn't have heard of him. And just let him weave his magic.
Yes.
Just, I don't know, Bruce does get the program on delay.
Sure.
Might go to him about Wednesday.
Yeah.
Ring the King. He can still get there in time. And just let him loose. Turn him loose and say, do your best, King.
Yes. Well, if King won't have a say with Dished Dowling for moral support, and maybe
A couple of people out of
Gino
Paradise
Miles.
Beach. And a couple of people out of Paradise Beach. There's heaven to do it. I'm sure Wayne's seen Paradise Beach.
Of course he would have done. I mean, now you think about it, I mean, does it take that much to bloody organise this?
I just don't see where this...
Is it left to us? I mean, we know nothing.
We're not moving the shakers in the international thing.
know.
But I say this. I say this.
I mean, if I was going to be impressed, I wouldn't be impressed by any of the human junk that we've sent over.
I thought you were going to say excrement there for a minute.
No. I mean, I would be impressed by people that are familiar, people who've cut the international rug.
Well, let me read out a few names here. Greg Daniel, Jeff Wild, Dame Joan, Goff and Margaret, Nick and Catherine, Peter Montgomery, Doug Donahue, John Vowder, David Smithers, Jeff Henke,
get rid of all them.
John Devitt, John and Caroline Hewson, Bob Carr and wife Sally Ann Atkinson and spouse, John Murray, it goes on and on, Ronnie Elverson, Ron Finnan.
Look, they're all tremendous individuals.
Well, of course, I've got nothing against them.
Nothing against them. I love them.
Yeah.
I love them all.
Yeah. But
they're not right.
Yeah. They're wrong.
They're wrong for this job. There's horses for courses.
Sure.
And we've got duds there. We've got all duds. I mean, we could have 30 bloody luminaries. Ron Clark.
Oh, well...
Has anyone spoken to Ron?
Has
anybody never won a medal, but sure.
It doesn't matter. Has anybody sent Juan Antonio Samaranch, this will swing us, a box of Ron Clark chocolate chip cookies? You know, has anybody bothered to do that? Olympian, sure he did bug it up, ... But his name all over the sort of product that should be properly endorsed. I bet you as soon as one bit into a Ron Clark fruit cluster, that the games would be ours.
Of course.
It's a simple thing. I mean, that's what it's going to swing on. Some tiny
moment sitting there engaged in very interesting conversation with Greta Scacchi and Mel Gibson. Mel giving an autograph photo of himself.
Signing it.
Saying,
and Greta opening a handbag and saying, would you like to try one of these Ron Clark cookies, these fruit clusters? Wow.
That's right. With Dame Joan in the corner.
Singing Friday on My Mind. Don't tell me that... I mean, he'd be putty.
I mean, the Chinese would be slashing their wrists and drowning in Versace powder. They would. They'd be spewing because they've got no international acts. They haven't got any. I mean, they've got Ding.
Yeah.
Down the old Ding.
That's the only one they can wheel out. And, of course, you know, what they'll be trying to do is compensate by offering Wayne monkey brains, you know, still warm from the living ape.
That's right.
And things like that, and lark's tongue.
Here's the last tiger.
Yeah, that's right. Want to have a shot at it?
Yeah, we're going to hold it here, hold it by the head. You blow his head off, Wayne. I mean, that's just not going to cut it.
Do you want to slit a panda's throat, Wayne?
Yeah.
You know, all that sort of gear. Of course he would.
Of course he would.
But
just
I think
experience it.
I know, but I think the human touch... I think the human touch is more than just banging away at basically inanimate species.
Yeah, well...
held down for you, but a lot of my others.
Yeah, I mean, we've just got it so wrong.
Triple J.
Is your whisper, Roy, from Monaco and the squeak in the chair? What are you hearing from Monaco? Who's there? Who's supporting us? And how are they shaping up vis-a-vis Friday, 4:20 Eastern Standard Time in Australia?
Yeah. Look, my mail is that Istanbul, I should say, the marriage of, or where East meets West, is firming.
Yes.
But I think I take on board the thoughts of Roddy McGeoch and Kevin Gosper, and that is that Australians, to a person, can't afford to relax over these last few days.
Yes.
Now, it's been suggested that on Thursday evening, that is Thursday night, that every possible power source in Australia should be turned on.
Right.
So, in each household, take note, every light switch should be left on all night, every heater, every appliance, even any torch. Go about the house, see if you can find any torches or anything like that. With torches, if you can direct the light, direct it towards Monaco, or Monaco, as we used to refer to it when we were kids, when Sophia Loren was Sophia Loren. Aim it exactly towards Monaco, every torch you've got, every bit of light, and that way it still lets them know that right up until the last moment at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, when the announcement is made, that even as Juan Antonio walks down the steps to say, whatever it might be, that there's still a bit of Sydney, there's still light, there's still energy going, Sydney. You know, sure, from a long way away, but it's still there, it's still palpable, it still can be sensed that we are interested, that is, as Australians. Look, I cannot underline this enough. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't sit back on your heels.
Yes.
Keep the flag, keep the torch burning, keep everything aiming Have I made this clear?
I think you have, Roy, and if you've got a box of matches,
Old matches as well, yes.
If you've got any old refuse, if you can afford a new house, burn down the current house, because I think that the whole thing is when he looks to the east,
yes,
he will see a conflagration brighter than the sun, brighter than 1,000 suns, never seen before on Quantum, and that will remind Juan Antonio when he is about to get out of Istanbul to go against all the bookies betting and say, Sunday!
Yeah.
And give us the games in the year 2000. It would be a tremendous effort to think that he saw a big sign, i.e. a big sign...
Well, a big smoke signal.
Yes, a big smoke signal.
Every house.
Oh, yes.
Every bit of property, every tree.
Up
in Australia ablaze.
With one message only, Sydney for the Olympics in the year 2000. Week for mine was the appearance of Australian cricketers in this sort of gear, and I point to a picture in the paper, the stripy blazer and the rather old-fashioned, sort of the old worldly look of the whole thing. I mean, I was very disappointed. I was very, very disappointed. If anything, the public want to see more flesh from cricketers. They don't, at all times of the day, they don't want to see it covered up. Yeah. I mean, these people are fit. Very, very fit. You only have to think of Bruce Reid and you think fitness. Yeah. And every time I see Mark Taylor, who is getting on the...
Tubby Taylor. Even though he's fitter now than he's ever been.
I have to sit down. But what did you make of the decision by the ACB? And who's behind this gear? Is this another one of Healy's ideas? Dobber Healy's ideas?
I'm unsure where the idea came from, but to me it represents a larger problem, the problem in the fashion industry itself. I remember bumping into Pierre Cardin and Jenny Kay not so long back, just as a light lunch. And we were discussing the problems of fashion, and that is that it's turning in on itself. It seems that, you know, you've only got 4 limbs and a torso and a head. Now, pretty well everything's been done in those configurations. The only newness, as I said to them, coming to the fashion industry would be to, say, amputate limbs and put them in different spots. So if you had a leg coming out of a stomach, that could be an interesting... Well, certainly would give costumiers something new to think about. And to my mind, it has been turning in... I mean, we've had the Egyptian look, we've had the post-Egyptian look, you've had your Arabian look, your post-Arabian look, your pre-Arabian look, your peasant look, your post-peasant look, your pheasant look, your post-pheasant look. You've had your Mesopotamian, you've had your Odinisa look, you've had your Romanian look, your Polish look, your Dutch look, you've had your American look, that is your North American look, that is your American Indian look with the feathers, without the feathers, sans feathers, so to speak. You've had your South American look with the darts in the nose. You've had your African look, your African look, your New Guinean look, your Wontok look. No matter your Balinese look, your Indonesian look, your Javanese look. No matter where, every look has just about been bloody well done time and time again, and put in different contexts. I.e., you're Egyptian in the 60s, you're Egyptian in the 40s, you're Egyptian in the 30s. You're French, Dutch, American Indian in the 30s, in the 50s, in the 60s, etc., etc. So now you see, I feel saddened for young kiddies wandering around looking like, pale imitations of their parents, and you would have seen their parents wandering around looking pale imitations of their grandparents and their grandparents. You see what I mean? So the cycle is just going on and on, but the cycles are getting shorter and shorter. So much so that we now have a period of absolute total Catholic eclecticism. And I know I use those terms advisedly, tautologist, but I'm trying to make the point that everything is acceptable and everything has bloody well been done. Now, this poses an enormous problem. So now you've got the cricketers have gone retrograde, they've gone retro, and so you've got Merv Hughes looking like the demon Spofforth. Now, my memory is that Spofforth wasn't much of a bloody demon at all, and the bloke looked just as bloody stupid as Merv does. And really, Merv with the mo looks more at home in that gear than anyone else does, and he still looks stupid. So it's a sad indictment of the fashion industry for mine.
All those looks, of course, Roy, have been cooked up this year. I mean, that's what's disappointing about this, is we're going to go through a whole heap of cricketing looks between now and the end of the summer.
Yes.
And, look, I tell you what, I think that there is room in cricket for, innovation in your fashion. I mean, obviously...
Well, you haven't seen your toga. Your toga hasn't come to cricket yet. And I think an off-the-shoulder sort of Nero...
drape sheet.
A Nero look would be good. 11 Neros wandering out with the vine leaves in the hair. I don't think that'd look too silly in the context of 1993. I think that would work, even if they only wore that gear off the paddock and sat on large pillows wherever they were. Wherever they gave a press conference, they would sit down with a pillow, and a couple of younger kiddies would come out unisex style with grapes and things like that. I think that's got a hell of a lot going for it.
Well, I think it would encourage a lot more people who aren't interested in cricket to get back to the game. The two areas of fashion that I think need to be highlighted is the date and the flute in a cricketer.
Yes.
I mean, when was the last time we saw...
What, a butt plug? Wearing a butt plug?
What I'd like to see is something... I don't know whether this would be possible.
And one of those, you know,
cod pieces, wrapped cucumber in alfoil.
Well, no,
style.
your New Guinean Highlander.
Oh,
one of those sort of horn things.
Yeah, fertility.
Yes, that's attached to the gland's penis, arrestingly upright. You know, pointing at the chin.
Yes, that's right. Held together.
Well, I don't know how they're held there. Whether your Highlander is permanently in a state of excitement or not, I don't know. But it's held upwards, thrusting up. Now, have you had that plus a butt plug? That's a look.
Roy, what I was going to suggest was something by way of a magnifying glass held at a strategic position and an appropriate distance from the either the piece that wants to be highlighted. So as when, you know, you looked in, you looked at it and caught a glimpse.
Yes.
You know, there would be the offending...
Penis. Well, why not a penis just stuck in a funnel that's lit, that you carry before you? Now, that's a look.
Comfy eyes buggery, comfy eyes, comfy eyes. Lithgow Bank.
Why did you turn to the Lithgow Bank, Roy?
Oh, very good question, Paul. Look, they've only got one branch, but whenever you pop in with, say, a sugar bag full of small change, they'll stop what they're doing immediately and count it for you on the spot by hand while they massage your back with their feet. Now, that's the sort of personalised, know-your-customer service you don't see these days with your big city banks, Paul. Any massages I had with Westpac or Macquarie, I had to pay for.
Do they wash your car, Roy?
Well, that was the other thing, Paul, that sent my money as well home. As soon as I pulled up, the manager stripped off, totally buffed, wedged a cake of soap between the crack, hurled himself at the car with the hose strapped to his forehead, screaming out, "Look out, dirt! Here I come!"
It must have caught you by surprise the first time, Roy.
Well, it did, Paul, it did. But I read about it in the bank's prospectus, so I was half expecting it.
The Lithgow Bank, where the back door is always open.
Comes up when Norman Mackay walks down the dusty drive of the Jeps Cross abattoirs for the last time today. He takes with him 50 years of memories and legend status among slaughtermen. Memories of some baking naked on the roof, drinking beer under the gums, joining hundreds of others in pursuit of a greased pig carrying a £5 prize at the butcher's picnic. Everything at once meant to be part of the abattoirs family. When the abattoirs was once one of the North's great industries, employing 1,800 people and setting records of 1 million lambs in a season, Norman was one of the great slaughtermen. His mates and colleagues speak of him with reverence because he is one of the last to have the pre-mechanisation skills. Quote, "We just respect him a great deal and we want to thank him for all the information he's passed on down to us over the years," says fellow slaughterman Jack Emery. Jack's a tremendous bloke.
Yes,
as well.
he's a good slaughterman too.
A very fine slaughterman. Loved going in after the offal stangers, Jack. Jack remembers when Norman protected his hands from thorns in sheep's wools. I said to him, "What am I going to do? My hands are soft." This is one of the tips, you know, Norman passed on to Jack. Norman said, "When you get home tonight, apply the Yellow River. That'll harden them up." And it did. But Norman's advice wasn't also so useful. He delighted in making occasional impossible demands on his students. He once asked Jack to get him a bag of sparks, will you? That's the jokes we used to have with the young ones and the people who are new to the plant. The abattoir's workforce has unfortunately now dwindled to a mere 250, and Norman says it's lost its sense of community. He blames the change on hard economic times when no one can expect to hold down the same job from 14 to 65 as he did. He plans to spend his retirement renovating his Largs Bay house and fishing. Hope he doesn't fish off Largs Bay, but that's another story. Today is his last day after more than half a century of work, and his mates want to send him off with the publicity and recognition they say he deserves, says colleagues David Mezzer. Isn't Mezzer tremendous?
Good slaughterman too.
Fine slaughterman. You tell the man here everything, he'll put it in the paper, and I'll stick it up on my wall because I'm bloody proud of you. Roy, Norman was a bit of a legend out there at the Jeps Cross abattoirs, and the bloke, Matthew Travis, who wrote the article, must have studied the work of Steve Crawley.
Yes, that's got Steve written all over it.
I expected to have a fox at twilight pipe in there somewhere. And you've been to the Jeps Cross abattoirs, obviously spent a lot of time there, swapping ideas with, Norm of how to get a kill count up, Dropbox work, obviously getting the head off, offal stangers that obviously, the other bloke, Jack Emery, loved going in after. It's a rich world, and it is such a happy family, isn't it?
It is.
When you get into it, they do treat you as one of their own, don't they?
Oh, they do. There is great camaraderie on the works floor, on the killing floor. Just in little ways. I can remember when I started, I was just a young, raw-boned kiddie who didn't mind wielding a blade. And took to it like a duck to water, I might say. And I remember a great old slaughterman at Blaney, came up behind me just before the whistle at the end of the day, and he slipped a couple of chops into my pocket. He was working in the boning room, and he'd just come out with a few chops just to distribute them, illegally, obviously. He slipped into my pocket and said, "You've done good, off you shoot." And I felt as proud as punch getting home with a couple of chops for nothing.
On your first day.
Pocket. And I'll never forget the excitement too, HG, of coming across a gallstone. Picking out gallstones. I didn't come through all that frequently, but when you did slit a gall and watch the green run, and every now and again over your fingers would
Clunk,
clunk, clunk, clunk. Hello?
Gold.
Gold. Absolute gold in a gawley. And we used to just put them in our fob pockets and clink home with gallstones, knowing that you'd get a very, very pretty penny for those if ever you went to Asia. Not that many of us did in those days. And many of us just kept them in jars to laugh at, after a few drinks on a Friday night. Look at these. Or you scare the kiddies with them, that sort of thing, stick them up your nose and blow on them. Just little tricks like that you picked up on the floor. And Norm, even though I haven't met Norm, I just know Norm would be full of just those little silly stories that go to make up any ordinary day near the drop box in an abattoir. Very, very funny blokes. And Norm, I know where you're coming from, and brother, I know where you're going. I wish you all the best.
And
Sex. Like to speak Swedish. Like to argue in Danish. Like to nut the problem in Norwegian. Spend the weekend with HG and Roy. They'll sort you out. Nordic languages, they're inside.
Imagine a modern housing estate where every backyard has its own boxing ring, its own speedball hung up in the garage, its own cut specialist on call 24 hours a day, and a tan and bark common so sophisticated that all the jogging routes look the same. Cess Waters, Trainer Lewis, Johnny Famishon and Lucky Gattalari, in association with the Federal Department of Housing, have designed a series of suburbs that will have the nation coming out swinging by the year 2000. Australia, if you can't be clever, be punchy.
It's great news. It's a big breakthrough for boxing. It's been a long time coming. Cess Waters is very excited about it. He'd love to see the Culinara Boxing Academy. He'd like to see a number of boxers of all persuasions, both sexes. He thinks it can work, and I see no reason why Australian Women's Boxing Association, I can't see any reason why there are a lot of terrific belts up for grabs soon, and we can create a lot of good and interesting divisions.
Well, of course, remember the women's boxing is now part of the Olympic Games in Atlanta,
yes.
And then surely it might be...
Sure as eggs, it'll have to be up and running here.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Obviously there'll be a couple of divisions there, and hopefully in all the divisions by the time it comes to Sydney. Because let's face it, the thrill of the men have enjoyed for many, many years of, obviously taking a punch, opening uppercuts, and the kid to the cut specialist going low with a blow that the referee didn't see, having all the thrill of drawn fights, all that sort of stuff.
That's right.
And, speaking of drawn
taking
fights...
a few and enjoying the quiet laugh.
Leading with a grin on your dial, all those things, and coming to, not knowing who you are or where you are, but still feeling as though you can
way out. Yeah, you don't know what it means.
That's
you
right.
think someone's speaking French at you.
Well, from Mars, who's this bloke with a big magnifying glass looking up my nose, and having the paddle pop sticks inserted up the nose in a moment of crisis, or the cut specialist working you over, getting that eye closed up.
A little bit of brain coming through a crack. A little bit of brain. Well, do I need that? No, probably not.
And when you leave the ring, you see delighted and happy faces, just with a bit of claret, your claret.
You can't hear you just see the hands coming together. You can't actually hear the applause.
And having old fight nights and old fighters' dues, where, the bloke, Dalby, I think his name was,
Daldy.
Daldy.
Yeah. George Daldy.
Yeah, banged his boots to the floor before he stepped into it, so at least he'd stay in the one spot when people came advancing towards him. It is tremendous news, isn't it?
Yes.
And it is sad.
Women have been denied this for too long.
I know. It's sad to see Arthur Tunstall, Australia.
But isn't it good to see that there was still something in there that said, I've got to box again?
There was hunger, Roy.
Yes,
hunger.
That's what it is.
In a man who had every single system of recognition turned off.
There was total shutdown, wasn't there?
Yeah, total shutdown, but there was still hunger.
Yeah, things came back, didn't they? Although we did have confusion. I remember when we gave him that smell test, like he smelt the coffee and said rose, and we gave him a rose to smell, and he said tyres. And remember, he was asking for a banana to eat, and we gave him a banana, and he called that a lounge chair, and in fact what he really wanted was a hamburger. Remember that confusion? It made conversation very, very difficult there for a while. And when he was saying, I box again, I took it to mean something. I thought it was some sort of code. I couldn't quite unlock what he meant. I didn't know whether he was trying to say, want to buy a new car or what have you. But that was in fact the first thing he said, where there was a coincidence between intention and linguistics, where the language in fact was quite in association with what he was thinking.
Well, I take your point entirely, but, that was when he lapsed more into lucid consciousness.
Yes.
But I'll never forget the first thing he said. He emerged out, we were working with the flame on the feet. We'd sort of realised the jig was up there. We'd got out the